Welcome back. We're completing the third part of our story, Darling, But an Enemy. I am Maria from the Storyteller channel on YouTube. Please, before we start, subscribing to the channel to get you all new. We wish you a good listening. The company's car came instead of his bloodied car, smashing its glass. And I carried us to our house, grabbed him hard, like I was afraid I would get away with him. I couldn't speak. I put my head on his chest and held his hands with both hands. When we got to our house, he went to change his clothes, and it seemed like the trauma was on me. He came out and sat next to me, looked at him deep, and I threw him back into my arms. I first said, "Promise me not to leave me, promise me not to scare me like this again." Her touches were affectionate and she felt loving and close to me, and her day I couldn't get away from him. I couldn't resist it anymore or reject it anymore. It's my husband and my love, and it's time to show him that I too love him. After a long day full of fear and love, we succumbed to sleep, but we woke up to the sound of the doorbell and highways from which we did not know we went a little too far, and Liam went to the door to open it. I heard his mother crying and crying because he didn't answer his phone. He tried to explain to her that he was asleep, but she was not convinced and insisted that Liam and I go back to the palace. Since yesterday the family's children returned to the palace and told her what had happened, she could not take her nerve and could not rest until she saw it, and would only accept our return to the palace. Liam asked me to go get dressed and get my stuff ready to go. When I was inside, I prepared my stuff, which I heard, asking her to improve my treatment and to consider me like her daughter and not to repeat what happened with me, or he would go again. I am his wife and they must respect me if they respect and love him. I felt his love in those words, and I remembered Jack's attitude to what had happened in the past, and I made sure that I was right. Liam is a man who knows what he wants, demands, and defends. Liam is the right man for me, as my father told me hours before my wedding. We got to the palace and everyone dealt with me with my flair and taste. They appreciated the difficult situation that Liam and I went through too, apparently. His brother told them about the trauma that had struck me, and Liam's mother found me embracing, saying, "Joy has returned to our house with your return, bride. I didn't know you loved my son so much. I hope your life is safe and happy." I felt that for the first time she felt for me something positive, and I liked it. When we got to our room, Liam approached me trying to kiss me, and I couldn't stop him. Actually, we spent 3 whole days not going to work and not getting out of our room. Suhail told me he wanted to make up for all the time he missed and I was away from him. Our lives started to vary. I started talking to him more openly and I started to miss him more. I started telling him how I felt about him every day. Well, Liam managed to put me in love with him. He made me adore him. The days have passed and the love between Liam and I is still growing up and getting stronger. We were at Dad's house with the whole family when Dad told us that Jack had decided to come forward with my older sister. I laughed sarcastically and Liam seemed to be watching my reaction. When we came out, I asked him about it, and he replied, "I wanted to make sure it didn't matter to you." I looked him in the eye and told him, "I don't see men right now but you. What I had with Jack was an illusion for my part and a COVID for his part. I did not know this from the day I asked him to defend me, and you are not allowed to approach me and refuse. And today I was sure. So I laughed," he said, asking, "Didn't you like him?" I answered with confidence, "Liam, I felt love only with you. I knew myself only with you, and I loved life only with you." My sister married Jack, and less than 2 months later my father died. It was a major shock to me, and I felt that my world was falling apart. My uncles didn't look 1 month into my father's death and demanded that his share be divided. Especially since all his offspring are girls and therefore are our co-inheritors. We knew from my father's will that he left us liquid money and assets from apartments and real estate. but the companies gave it to my uncles. I marveled at it a lot, but I didn't object. That's my father's wish, and as long as I respected my father's wishes. But what killed me was what happened with me after the division of the inheritance. My Uncle Bird and his son Jack decided that I had no place in the company because I simply said, "I live in the enemy camp." William and I went back to our apartment, and I didn't want to go back to the palace where his family was. I told Liam on the phone that I was in our apartment. If he wanted, he could go to the mansion. I was treacherous and bitter. I wasn't waiting for this from my uncle or Jack. After less than half an hour, I found Liam in front of me. He told me that he knew everything. Well, Liam could know anything. He asked me not to grieve and that I could work with him if I wanted. I felt more dizzy and almost fell to the ground. I found out about her day that I was pregnant. Liam's family celebrated me so hard, and they all turned me around. His mother demanded that I go to the palace so that she could take care of me. The news of my pregnancy seems to have removed the tons of worries that have accumulated on my shoulders since my father's death. I'm starting to feel like life might be beautiful again. My months of pregnancy passed peacefully, and I refused to go down to work with Liam. I preferred to spend this period away from tension and anxiety. Indeed, I completed my months of pregnancy and had a beautiful boy. Liam surprised me when he told me that he called him Tom, like my father. I felt like the whole world was celebrating my little boy, and I made sure I chose the right man. I do not deny that what he did increased his worth in my heart. It was 2 years of happiness with Liam and Tom, who was spoiled the whole family. He's the first grandchild like his father, and so he got all the pampering. But happiness didn't last. Liam suddenly fell ill and lost weight very quickly. I had my fears, which unfortunately were confirmed by the doctor. Liam, a cancer patient. Thank God he was in the early stages, but it's still dangerous. Tom left his grandmother, Liam's mother, and we traveled together to France. We spent 3 whole months there until Liam fully recovered from his illness and we came home again. Things were very complicated and we knew nothing about it until we came back. The wars between the Hanks and Liam's family are back. When we got back to work, there were different big things, but I started to feel something strange. Even Liam felt it. They were treating me like a double agent. What made it worse was that the police arrested the person who shot at Liam's car and admitted that it was Jack Hanks who agreed with him and gave him money. I was seeing the accusations in the eyes of all of them, and it didn't stop there. All the company workers from Nichols' family refused to be part of their meetings, which made me offended, and I told Liam that I would leave the business with him once and for all. Liam agreed. On the same day in the evening, and during the meeting of each of Nichols' families, Liam told them that he had decided to quit and set up a new company for him and me, and that he would start executing his decision from tomorrow, which shocked them all too, but it was a shock of love. I asked myself, how much does this man love me? He abandoned his family and their work for me, abandoned his heritage and what he had sought throughout his life to achieve for me. When we walked up to our room, I asked him to change his mind, and his family would not forgive me for his decision. Maria was with you. To meet in episode 4.